Good evening. Well, it's evening for the likes of me if we stay up from the night before, because remember, we all go to bed with our high heels on, all our decadent art types, right? Presenting to you another episode of Clash Bedtime Stories. Our star of this particular installment is Johnny Green, the road manager, and we're going to talk about the infamous pigeon incident, to wit. I mean, people have made light of it. With hindsight, people have said, what a big farce, these radical terrorists, the Clash are just a bunch of dummies. The reality of the situation was we were rehearsing at rehearsals in Camden Town, and I lived there for a time. I was living there for some while. I lived there on a mattress on the floor, no hot water, no bathroom, and the rehearsal room was downstairs, and we had an office in front upstairs. But it was a big building, an old customs works above all the old railway sidings. It was a wreck then, but it was interesting, but very inhospitable. It was cold, it was damp, had a big mural of Paul's on the wall, but they used to come there every day in the afternoons and hang out, and we'd go to the cafe, and they'd rehearse, and they'd go to the pub for a drink. Upstairs had a payphone, which was very Bernard. It was not a proper telephone. You had to pay for it. But we'd leave the front of it off and hold it together with some wire so you could feed the money in and take it out again at the end of your call. It was frequently the case that to break up rehearsals, people would wander off. Paul used to have a little moped there or a little motorcycle, and he used to drive it round the back of these rooms, almost labyrinthine. And this one day, Gary Barnacle was there, Crocker was there, well, Robin Banks, that is. They'd gone off, with the guns, and they used to shoot stuff out the back. But this day, they went up on the roof, but we didn't really think much about it. I was in there, I think, with Joe and Mick. Tupper loved guns. Boy, he loved them, and Paul was into that too, but Joe and Mick, no. So we're just talking, and I looked out the window, and I said, Christ, there's a helicopter overhead. And we're laughing, and we look, and we realize there's only one entrance to this road off this big yard. And I said, Christ, look at these cops. Look, they just sailed off into the yard. I wonder what's going on. Well, there were some other dodgy characters there who were our neighbors, You didn't ask what they did, but they wore expensive overcoats, drove big cars, you know what I mean? And we knew them, and they were nice to us, and we'd say hello to them, In fact, we never got robbed when it was dark and unprotected, but it was the sort of place people would hassle you because of who else was there, and we thought it was all sealed off. And suddenly the door burst open and the police came in with guns, which when you're in England, you're not used to that. You don't see things like that. And to have policemen kick in your door and running in, helicopters overhead, cars outside. We didn't connect it with what was going on upstairs, and then they realized who we were and that we weren't part of this. The next thing we knew, they were loading the rest of them, Barnacle, Crocker, Paul, and Topper away, And that's when we got into gear, got on that phone, driving around with Mick and Joe, trying to get solicitors and stuff like that. I mean, there were regular run-ins with the law. And I don't think it was being deliberate. It was just the provocative times that we lived in, being punk rock, We were all familiar with the Rolling Stones legend, how they in their time had been persecuted by the law, A lot of the crazy things that were done, you'd cop to it now and again, but they were mostly connected with work if you actually stopped to think about it, really. And that was Johnny Green, the way he was. See you next time, kids, when we emerge from the wilds with another installment of Clash Bedtime Stories.